All right, everybody, let me know that you can hear me out there. We're going to get started in just a couple of minutes. Okay, good. All right, we got about 2 minutes to go, and we'll be getting going. All right, good morning, everyone. Let's get started. Welcome to the 10-Minute Trades Trade Room. We're here for the WASDE-Quarterly Grain Report. WASDE and Quarterly Grain Report, they are two separate reports. In January, they trade together. My name is Lee Goldstein. I'm the Trading Director at 10-Minute Trades. Now, please remember that all trades we discuss are for educational purposes only. It is possible to lose money trading futures, so please trade carefully and trade wisely. All right. So it's like I just said, we have a double report this morning. It happens once a year, January. So the quarterly grain report is very much like the WASDE report. They are grain reports. They talk about planting and information regarding farming and soybeans and corn and all sorts of stuff that I don't know a single thing about, other than the fact that it moves a certain group of indexes very well when the report comes out. And that's our interest. Our interest is the way that it moves. It could be about, shoe leather for all we know. And it doesn't really matter as long as it moves the shoe leather futures in a predictable, reliable way, then we could trade shoe leather. So that's the approach that we take. We're looking at the previous reports and trying to make an intelligent decision about how to trade based on the way the previous report behaved. So the last quarterly grain report was in September. All right, so first thing we'll look at is we generate a trade report, and that trade report was generated yesterday. And it looks like this. So if you read it, and you should read it, of course, we expect that you read it or we wouldn't send it. The January report is special. It's paired up with the fourth quarter grain stocks report. I call it the quarterly grain stocks report. It can sometimes reverse quite radically, okay? So you want to be aware of that. You have an interesting reversal point if you get to the high of the day. That's a possible. Low of the day, I really expect usually bigger moves out of this report. This report is potentially a very big mover. So you want to be aware of that. There's also something called limit up, limit down. Grains, if they move so much that they pass these levels that are noted on the website, the CME website, it can actually freeze the market until the next opening market for that instrument. And I'm not trying to scare you. It's very, very rare. But we actually did see it happen once this year after we were out of our trade. And generally, our targets are well short of being caught in a frozen market. It's got to move much, much further than our targets would be. Doesn't mean you're 100% safe. Anything can happen. You just need to be aware how different markets behave and what they do. So on this report, I'm actually going to trade 3 positions. So I'll do my targets slightly differently. And I am going to trade corn today, even though I have been trading soybeans on WASDE alone. And I'll go back to soybeans on WASDE alone next month. But this report is usually very, very impactful. And if corn is working well, I prefer corn over soybeans because it's a little bit more stable. It's sort of like comparing trading bonds to gold on the same report. Not quite as dramatically different. I would say that gold is much more dramatically different than bonds would be. But there's a difference in the way that the indexes behave. And soybeans are more herky-jerky, whippier. Corn tends to respond a little bit slower to the news. But I like when there's a report that moves corn really well. Corn is just a little bit safer as an instrument. But, it's like anything. You could get a great soybean move and no move at all on corn. You can get the opposite happen. There's no guarantee that my choice is going to be the right choice. So our setup is going to be this yellow line. It's the way that I'm going to trade this report. I'll get to that in a minute. Let's look at the last quarterly grains report, which was in September. We were trading corn. I was down about $390 that day before the report. And then the quarterly grain report came out. I remember it was a very good report. And WASDE, look at that move. It was a very big move. When the trade was over, I went from down 390 to plus 60. So that was a $450 trade. That was a good, solid trade. That was a nice move. So that was the last quarterly grain report. And you can see that soybeans moved beautifully also. And then if we look at June's quarterly grain report, I have a lot of different months in this one video. So here's June. There's our brackets. Trading corn again. And definitely a slower move than the last one. And that was a tough one. My stop wound up being in the wrong place, and sometimes that'll generate an error. And it took me out of the trade flat. And it's because it reversed so fast when it got up to the top. It just moved very slowly. So June it wasn't a loser, but it was no great shakes on corn. Soybeans, to me, looked like they moved early. So let's see what happened with soybeans. So soybeans, the orders go on the chart at 2 seconds before the news. Whoops. Let me get to the right place. Yeah, soybeans look like they moved quite a bit early, and then they moved again. So you could see that's a decent sized candle before the trade. And there was a secondary move that was looks very good. You don't know how much slippage there would have been without trading that live, but it had a solid move also. Corn had a fair amount of slippage that day, and sometimes that can be a factor in how the trade works. And let's look at March. I don't, KW. This is the only one. I don't have my old reports today. But it makes no difference, KW. It's a strong moving report, and it really just looks like a WASDE report, and it's looks exactly. Let me look. I'll see if I have a last January. They look exactly the same, the two reports. They virtually trade everything about them. If someone blindfolded you and didn't tell you which report you were trading, you would not know. This is March. And we were trading corn again. The report is at noon, Liz. And with WASDE and quarterly grains, I wait to get filled. I generally will not cancel these trades. Sometimes they're slow. I try not to get too close to the current price because it tends to chop a lot. And that makes it a hard trade to trade, all the chop. So it's really a question of whether you're willing to risk a full stop out to try and get a bigger profit. And sometimes that can backfire because you'll wait, not move your stop, and it'll reverse on you. And that's one of the hardest parts of trading is you never know if this is the day you should move your stop or if this is the day you should leave your stop alone. It's very, very difficult to know that. And of course, that's part of the reasons trading is not simple. Let's see. So, no, unfortunately, let's see, January 10th. Yeah, KW, this was a year ago. This was WASDE and quarterly grains together. This was last year. And last year, it was slower in January. Soybeans had a deeper move last year. So that was last year. Made a profit of 212. The soybeans setup, it's a slightly bigger stop. It's a 12-tick stop. And we traded soybeans last period, and I did not get stopped, but it was a whipsaw. It was a whipsaw. And I did not get stopped on it. I made money on it. I remember that I made money on it. You know, I've been trading soybeans on WASDE for the past 3 months. My gut feeling is that we should get a decent move. It's a hard decision to choose soybeans or corn. Very, very tough decision. So since we've been target, I'm just checking the targets. Targets are the same. Really, the only difference is the stop is a little bit bigger for soybeans. It's a little bit bigger. You know, the truth is soybeans have been trading better lately. So, you know, I'm gonna stay with beans. I've been trading them for the last 3 months. I'm gonna stay with beans. I like the way it moved in January. It is what it is. And a lot of folks got stopped last month. It's rare to get 2 stops in a row, but I'm also going to look at the volatility of soybeans versus corn before the trade. So that makes me want to trade corn because it's calmer. And I would rather try, Mike, you can ignore that for NT8. I've been meaning to ask my boss to remove that. It has no bearing. This note here has no bearing on NT8. Sorry that it's still on the report. So look at that move on soybeans. It almost looks like the report came out early. That's extremely strange. So I'm going to go back to my original idea of corn because of the volatility. The reason I wanted to stay with corn is the milder, we might make a little bit less money, but it might be a little bit safer today, especially in light of that little bit unusual move. Now, keep in mind, my charts were pretty well spread too. But I'm going to go with what my original plan was. So I'm going to set up a trade. I have a bracket of 4. It's a breakout trade. I've got a bracket of 4. And I think I'm going to do what I did last month because we're in January. January is a slower moving report. Even though it's a good moving report, it's a slower moving report than March or February. As you get closer to spring and planting, usually WASDE and quarterly grains are better moving, bigger movers. So rather than use 3 different targets, I'm going to use 2 positions for the first target of 7 ticks. And then my second position is going to be 1 target of 17 ticks. The stop is 10. Stop loss is 10. The entry time of the trade is 11. 59, 58. 11, 59, 58. It is a breakout trade. I'm saving a template and I'm going to call it WASDE ZC. And the reason I'm saving it is because I have to shut down my strategy and reconnect my correct account. And this is something you never have to do. Just I'm trading in a certain account. When we get a report, I have to trade in my official account. So I'm just connecting the correct account. Now I'll just reset up the trade. And I created a template. So if I don't want to reset the trade from scratch, I can go down to template, go to load, WASDE ZC112, double click on it. Now my WASDE that I set up, it's here. It's set up here. So I've got a bracket of 4. Bracket of 4. 2 contracts for 7 ticks. 1 contract for 17 ticks. A stop of 10 ticks. An entry time of 11:59:58. It's a breakout trade. I'm going to choose the account that I'm trading in. It's my regular account. And I'm going to label the trade ZC WASDE. Okay. Now I would trade the same setup with soybeans. The only difference is the stop is a 12. The only difference is the stop is a 12. Okay. And then in my template, so I'll save the whole report, the trade, WASDE ZC, and I've already got it there. If I resave it, it'll ask me, do I want to overwrite it? And I do. And then when I apply it and okay it, put my charts on live, enable the trade. When you get your logo, that means your trade is enabled. Now you have some interesting reversal areas. The high of the day is pretty far away. And see, my charts were very spread apart on soybeans, and that made it more worrisome. Okay, so keep that in mind. My charts were very spread apart. on soybeans. They were like that. I'm going to record this. And then we will be back here at 1:30, no, 12:30. 12:30. Pretty soon after this trade's over, we'll come back for bonds. So sometimes, so WASDE is a report that it doesn't really show up on the calendars. So the way that you know that the report has come out is usually you'll get filled. It's, you know, it's sort of like API. API does not show up on the calendars. So you don't really know that the API report comes out until you get filled. Now, WASDE, sometimes it fills late. So I don't like to cancel it. Let's check our time. So we check our time by going to the website, time.is. And when I say check my time, what I mean is I'm getting my computer in sync. Windows sync, okay? Windows time sync or time sync. When you go to the website, time.is, many people, not everybody, their computer will be put in sync, okay? Their computer will be put in sync. Soybeans are quite volatile this morning. And the worry about that kind of volatility makes you worry that your bracket will not be large enough to protect you from getting filled into the trade before the news comes out, right? So that's always an issue. It's always an issue. It's an issue with every trade. I went to the U.S. Department, the USDA Gov website, make sure the report hasn't been released yet. It usually shows up on this page. So I'm going to keep this page open somewhere on one of my computers, on one of my monitors. Soybeans are very, very active this morning. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to give you a better trade. You know, with these types of trades, we never know what's going to happen. We are prepared usually for a burst or a drop. I mean, that's what we're prepared for. Usually this trade is too fast to trade both a reversal and the trade itself. It can be very fast. Look at soybeans. If I were trading soybeans today, I wouldn't trade. I wouldn't take the trade. There's And I'm honestly just thinking, corn is not looking as volatile, but if you ever are concerned that you don't want to take a trade, don't take it. You don't have to. You don't have to trade. I mean, bonds we have today, we have the API report today. You don't have to trade this report today if it looks too volatile. A lot of times, this report has somewhat of a history of trying to scare you out of the report. Now that's a very nerve-wracking early move. That's a nerve-wracking early move. Remember what I said my boss calls that? He calls that a tripwire to cancel. A tripwire to cancel. It's a fancy way of saying too much pre-volatility to trade. $58, my orders will show up on the screen. Whew. So you see what I mean about getting scared out of the trade, folks? I tried not to let myself get scared. You should exit the trade if you're not taking a reversal here. We could have used larger, maybe all that volatility was a sign that there was going to be much more movement on the report. I did not want to let the trade scare me out of the report. Now, there probably will be a reversal here, but that's very bullish behavior. And when it's so bullish and we don't have the numbers available, I prefer to just, especially if I have a great profit like that, I prefer to just take my profit. I'll take my profit and I'm happy with that. I'm pleased. Okay. I know it's going to probably go to R3 in reverse. I know that. But the behavior of the indexes is so darn bullish that I would rather just take my money and I'll go on to the next trade. It's okay. Yeah, you might leave that reversal on the table. You could have thrown one contract on there. If I was serious about taking a reversal, I would have set up my reversal setup so that I had a safe trade. Okay. But I know this trade. I normally don't reverse it because I don't normally have time. I don't normally have time. I did not feel that I would necessarily get time either. I'm just making a quick screenshot. So who else traded? Chantal makes a very good point. The entry time of 58 is a frightening entry time. Why? Why? It's frightening because of what I said before. You could get filled early and be pulled into the trade before the news comes out. And then you could be in the wrong direction. See what I mean about the reversal, though, today, folks? One of the greatest feelings in the world Juan, would you send me a picture of your profit, please? I have a big webinar coming up this week. I have a very big webinar coming up, and that will help me. Oh, Jaquan, that happens. Jaquan, I've done that. I've done that. Salvador, I'll show you the video. It happened so fast, I don't remember what I did. I think it hit both my targets, Salvador. I don't think I moved anything, except I was moving my stop to safety, Salvador. I'll show you the video. I'll show you the video. Let me render it. It'll take a second. I'm doing it right now. So I want to thank our YouTube watchers. Also, if you like what you saw, I made almost $400 in 10 seconds. Give us a like and hit that notification bell and sign up for our reports if you're watching on YouTube. So let's look at the video. Salvatore, yes, of course you're invited to the webinar. This is a webinar everybody should come to. You're going to get a whole bunch of emails. The guy that's doing this webinar with me, he ran trade rooms when I was a beginner trader, and I used to be in his trade rooms. That's what a historic person this guy is. He goes back to like the beginning of the day trading times, and it's not even that he's so old. He must have been pretty young when he was doing this, because he's not that old. He's definitely not that old. And he used to be involved with robots. He had a robot that I subscribed to. I was a newbie, and I was like taking advantage of all the stuff that he was selling. And he was very honest, and he was a nice guy. And here's the link to the webinar. That's the link to the webinar. Everybody's invited. I think you should come. It'll be interesting, because he really goes back. He really goes back to the beginning of this industry. And, you know, it's almost like going to a webinar with Hubert and John Carter. If you get an opportunity to talk to them, those guys go back, you know, so they're very interesting, because they're historical figures in the trading business. Well, Rob Mitchell is a historical figure in the trading business, for real. I know, of course, that I'm a very historical person in the trading business. I mean, that just goes without saying, but I'm kidding. Rob really is historical. He was creating robots and things that I didn't even know existed. And it's so fascinating. I was such a newbie when he was involved. So, Salvador, you wanted to watch the video. You were asking if I moved anything. I don't think I moved anything, except I started to move my stop. So I would not have blamed anyone who was too worried about pre-trade volatility. Look at soybeans. I would have been too afraid to trade soybeans. They were scary. Look at that. That looked like the news was out. The only reason you knew the news wasn't out is because corn didn't move at all. So you had to assume that it was just pre-trade volatility. And then corn got a little scary too, to be honest. And it got dead quiet right before the news. And then I thought we were going to get stopped out. It hit my first target, and as I was moving my stop, Salvador, it burst through my second target. Okay, so definitely too conservative. Could have done a target of 30 ticks on that one. Could have done a target of 30 ticks. You know, we could have traded 4 contracts on that. WASDE-Quarterly grains. These are the reports we want to trade big, as scary as they can be. Let's look at soybeans at the exact moment of the trade. Was it safe? Were soybeans safe, or would you have been stopped out? So soybeans, our orders are on the chart. We would have been stopped out on soybeans because it filled to the downside and stopped out on that move up. I think it would have been a losing trade on soybeans. Watch. Watch at 58. I'll try and stop the clock. 58, the price of soybeans was 75. And then it dropped more than 5 ticks, folks. It would have been a stop out on soybeans. Yes, Salvador, our software can put a third target on. Jaquan, don't even sweat it. Just go on and trade the next report that you like. That's all. Don't sweat it. Just go and trade the next report that you like. Don't let it bother you. Don't let it bother you. Just don't let it bother you. See, the reversal really did not work today. You know, it was very targeted, the reversal. Yes, that was, I think, an accurate sim trade, Wally. I think that was an accurate sim trade. David, I can't do it now. You have to do it in a different room because I'm leaving now because we have another trade in 15 minutes. I got to get ready for it. So David, just ironically, this is the one time I can't do it. Normally, you know I can. So I apologize. Now you want to be very careful. Remember what I said about limit up. If corn moves too much, it'll freeze the market. So I would recommend not being in a corn trade because I'm not sure what that limit up number is right now. And I don't know if you're in danger or not, but if you made money, you don't want to be chasing it anyway. There really is no reason to be in the corn market now. Okay. Everybody will be back at 12:30 for bonds. Okay. We have a 30-year bond trade. I'll see everybody in about 20 minutes. Heat up your coffee, have some lunch real quick, and I'll see everybody for bonds. It's 10-year notes today. 30 is tomorrow. 10-year notes today. It's Tuesday. I keep thinking it's Wednesday. Okay, I'll see everybody later. Later, 20 minutes. I'll see you all in 20 minutes. Okay.